but yet everyone who joined had to sign up. Another example I'm fond of mentioning in terms of totalitarian or intrusive rules are, I used to play the violin. I'm what's called a hit violinist. If you hate someone, you hire me to play the violin near them, and they go, ah. And I noticed the conductor, whenever I played the note wrong, he'd go like this, you know, block, shape up, or I'm kicking you out of this orchestra, which was often, which is why I had to leave. But the woodwind instruments, you know what he would tell them? You breathed at the wrong time. Because in the music, in the notes, the clarinet has to breathe at a certain time. And if he breathes at the wrong time, the conductor gets ticked off and tells him to breathe at the right time. And I tell you, even during slavery, no slave master ever told his slave when to breathe. I mean, you know, they were reasonable masters. They didn't tell him when to breathe. But the orchestra conductor will, but as long as it's voluntary, it's okay. So in these condominium associations, they regulate the crap out of everything, but as long as everyone agrees, it's okay. So if one neighbor plays the radio too loud, you go to the condo association and say, hey, look, you know, there was this case, I think it was in Canada, but I'm not sure, where there was a very fat lady, and she wanted someone else's parking spot. I'm not making this up. And the condo association said no, that she couldn't have it because it was some other lady's parking spot. And the, what is that, Canadian Human Rights Commission said, no, the fat lady's got to have her parking spot. Namely, they overrode the voluntary court of the condo association, which would be illegitimate. Okay, so when, you see, all property would be private. And in most cases, the court would be clear who the court would be. Right now we're in UBC, it's a private school. If we have an altercation, the UBC court will determine who's right and who's wrong. If you're my student, I say you plagiarized and you say you didn't, the court would decide that. Whether you get kicked out of school or I get demoted for falsely accusing you of whatever. But there might be some cases where people in Elm Street send up a howitzer and it lands on Maple Street 5 miles away. And there are two different courts. And now it's not clear who's going to determine whether this was legitimate or not. So now I get back to my initial point. There are those courts, A and B, who have anticipated this. And who say, look, you know, if ever we come up with, see, if there's a dispute, it could be that little a goes to the big A court and invites B to come there, and B says, nah, I don't trust, it's your mother, I don't trust that court. And come to my court. But it's possible that they would agree. Or it's possible that little a, let me illustrate this. Here are the courts, A and B. And here are the opponents, little a and little b. And little a and little b are now having a dispute, right? So little a says to B, come to court A. And little b says, no, come to court B. And then they each go to their own court. Now it's possible that both courts will agree. They'll say, you know, A, you're crazy. B is in the right. Both of them agree. It's possible. And it's also possible that A will side with B and court big B will side with little a. It's possible. But the more likely case, the case that most people ask is, well, suppose A supports his client and B supports his client, now what? Now courts A, capital A and capital B are in a dispute with each other, right? And now I say, there are courts that have anticipated this very thing. And they say, look, you know, if ever your court and my court come up in the opposite side of any dispute between little a and little b, there are two ways we can go. One, we can fight, but fighting is expensive. And the other is, we can negotiate. We can have a arbitration, mediation. Namely, we'll go to Court C, because Court C is well known for probity and wisdom and stuff like that and whatever, and he'll negotiate it. I'm not finished yet. Give me another minute, and I'll call for follow-up questions to this. Now, there are two kinds of courts, Rothbard and David Friedman called the first court legitimate courts, because they are part of law and order. If they have a dispute with someone else, they'll, just negotiate or call upon court C or something like that. And then there are the bandit courts that say, sort of mafia courts, or your mother's court, or your brother's court. Now, the legitimate courts will very rarely fight. The only time they'll fight is with bandit courts. The illegitimate courts will fight all the time. And fighting is expensive. So we know as economists that if you have more expenses, it's less likely that you're going to survive than if you can provide your services at a lower price and make more profits. So the expectation is that the laissez-faire capitalist anarchist society will be earmarked with legitimate courts. Legitimate courts who, when they come up with a dispute with anyone else, will, negotiate or arbitrate or what have you. So it's unlikely. Is there a guarantee? No. There's no guarantee that one of, Court A might, really gain power because Court A was really good and they get richer. Sort of think Bill Gates. They get richer through honest means, and all of a sudden they say, hey, it's true we've made all of our money and our position and our prestige through the market, but now, we're really big. We can kick butt. We can, there's courts B through Z or Z, and we're more powerful than all of them put together, and we can kick their butt and take over the whole thing. Possible. You can't rule it out. You can't say, well, this proves that that can never happen. I just say it's unlikely. But right now we've got that. Harper is a maniac. He's sending troops to Afghanistan. When did the Afghanis ever hurt us in Canada? Obama and Bush sent troops over to places. Now, it's true there was 9/11. But as Ron Paul says, 9/11 is because we were there first. They were here because we were there first. The U.S. now has, more military expenditure than every other country in the world? Or the other top 40 countries? Something like that. We've got dictators already. So if you're so worried about that, what we should do is try to change the present situation and not worry about, well, in the theoretical free enterprise system, it might devolve into this sort of thing where you get one guy who is so powerful that he takes over everyone else. It's exceedingly unlikely because the way that A got powerful was through the market. See, if A got powerful through Godfather-like tactics, like killing other people, then, that's the type of people they are. Very similar to rent control. I did my PhD dissertation on rent control. Ordinarily, landlords are pretty nice guys. They're like any other entrepreneur. They want to satisfy customers. But when you have rent control, the impetus is on getting rid of tenants so you get a raise from the Rent Control Commission. You get a very different kind of a landlord in there. One who specializes not in satisfying consumers, but making them so uncomfortable that they leave. Well, you need a different kind of mentality for that. No, it's possible. Anything's possible here. This isn't Austrian economics. This is history, as we were talking before. Okay, now I'm finished, and are there other questions that want to follow up on this one before I call on other people for different questions? Who raised?
Well, I did. I was just going to say, if B is bigger than A, in that case, what incentive do they have at all to go to any upper court? Because they're more powerful, they don't have to listen to any more A's demands.
But, there'd be maybe 1,000 courts in a country as big as Canada, or 10,000 as big as in the United States. Remember, there's the Maple Street Court, dash police. There's the McDonald's Court, dash police. McDonald's got cops. Everybody's got cops. There's the cops for the mall. There's the UBC cops. There might be 10,000 different firms. It's hard to anticipate how many there'd be. It's sort of like if shoes were now nationalized and only the government made shoes, and I was a maniac saying, well, private people should make shoes. And then people would say, well, how many shoe manufacturers would there be? And I don't know. So I don't know how many different cop firms there'd be, but there'd be more than one or two.
I know, but like there's a McDonald's and a Burger King